Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Hamdan lillah, Hamdan lillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wa la ilaha illallah, Wallahu Akbar, Wallahu Akbar.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Al-Hikmat TV. My name is Naima Khan Ghani and I will be your host for today's segment of Who's Who in America and the Community. This program brings to you individuals who have dedicated and committed their lives to serving Allah. They come from the local, national and international levels. They serve as a motivating factor for you to get involved in the community. My guest today is Brother Nabil El-Shukri, who is the administrator of the Al-Azhar Islamic School, and he is here as my guest today. Welcome to the program, Brother Nabil.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Now tell us a little bit about you. I know you have a quite colorful history in terms of your nationalities. So tell us a little bit about where you were born and how you happened to come to South Florida to live.
Well, first my father is from Guyana, and he, at the age of 17, I believe, when he was younger, he really wanted to pursue Islam, and he had love for Islam, especially the Arabic language. So he went to study in Egypt first, Al-Azhar school in Egypt, in Cairo, and he was transferred to Al-Madinah Munawwara, which is in Saudi Arabia, to study in Jamiat al-Malik Abdul Aziz, the University of the King Abdul Aziz, and that's where he had met my mother. He was at the age of 45, and
wow.
My mother was at the age of 15.
MashaAllah.
And they met in Medina. This is when my mother's family, they had migrated to Medina, and they have got married there. My two older siblings were born in Medina. Me and my other sister were born in Trinidad.
So you migrated, your father left Medina with your mom and moved to Trinidad.
Right, because after he had graduated from Al-Madinah Munawwara, he was hired to be a da'iyah, which is to spread Islam in the Caribbean. So he ended up he went to Jamaica, Trinidad, and Guyana.
Caribbean countries.
Yeah, Caribbean countries. As he was in Trinidad, me and my other sister, Huda, was born in Trinidad. And he went back to Saudi Arabia, and that's where I grew up in Saudi Arabia, in Medina Munawwara.
Wow,
and
that's a colorful, your father is Guyanese,
right.
Your mother is from Yemen,
right.
You were born in Trinidad,
Right.
you grew up actually in Medina.
Right.
Now, how did you end up in South Florida? You
Well,
traveled all over the world.
Right. I ended up in South Florida because of in order for you to live in Saudi Arabia, of course, you have to have something called a kafil, which is you have to be working under a Saudi or a Saudi government. And as my dad reached the age of 65, he had to retire. And it's either the choice to go and live in Guyana, but my dad at the time, he was working in the United States of America, and he was an American, so he applied for all of his family to migrate to the United States of America. And a funny story how we end up in Florida, actually. My dad, when he used to come and visit us twice a year in Saudi Arabia, he used to bring a magazine from the airplane. And my mother, as she's flipping through, she always sees Orlando, and it's green and it's beautiful.
Right.
So when my dad asked her, where do you want to live in the United States, New York and here and here, she's like, I want to live
Pick
in
a state,
Florida.
right?
Yeah. So she said, I want to live in Florida.
In South Florida.
Yeah.
So you moved to Florida.
Yes.
Beautiful. And that must have been a difficult transition for you because you were 13 at the time and you came here to live?
Yeah, I was 13 years old. I started, when I came here, I went to, of course, New York first, but and then we transferred to South Florida. We lived in New York for like 2-3 months only. That's where my dad was living at the time.
Right.
So, and we moved to Florida, and I actually started the first grade that I was in. It was 8th grade. So it was kind of, because to me, middle school was the hardest thing.
It is the most difficult
the most
transition,
difficult
actually.
transition, yes.
Middle school is, yes, it's very challenging.
Exactly.
So how did you cope with that?
Well, it was very difficult for me. First, I didn't speak not even one word English.
Right,
just
that must
a
have been
little
really,
bit from different words,
difficult.
but I didn't speak English. I had to learn myself. I was very disciplined to learn myself. I recall I used to write words in Arabic transliteration, and I used to post them on the wall to understand what they mean, and I learned myself. So from the 8th grade, all of 8th grade, I didn't even speak to anyone.
So you taught yourself
I
English
taught myself,
practically?
yeah. And I became more comfortable with speaking English when I went to the 9th grade in high school. But the 8th grade was extremely difficult. It was a new culture for me. It's the whole, also when I went to school in Saudi Arabia, it's boys are separate, girls are separate, hair was mixed, and And I think at that age when girls started to experience, and it was just very difficult for me to understand.
So that must have been really challenging for you,
yes.
leaving such a, you know, quite vast difference in education, the educational system in Medina, with the segregation, with speaking only one language, and then you're coming here and you just dropped into a school that's mixed, speaking, and people around you, what are they saying? Because you couldn't understand a word that they were saying. So it was difficult for you to fit in.
Yes, yes. And I remember it was hard too for me, the reality, because I was a teenager, and my two sisters were in the same school with me, and they were the only people that wore the hijab at the time. And
because it wasn't common then, so that
it
would
was
have been
not
a
common
rare.
at all.
That's right.
It was. I remember even people were very strangely not understanding what you guys were dressed like that, and they were at the time wearing the abaya too. It's not only like jeans,
not just the head covering; they were in the full garb.
Yes, people were like, you know, a little strange what's going on and stuff. But
well, how was that reaction? Did the administrators, did the school, even the students, did they do anything to make you feel comfortable, like you belonged, or you felt like you were totally out of place in this environment?
Well, the thing is, because when I was younger, to tell you the reality, for me, I had to, I didn't know how to cope with it. So sometimes I would put a front on who I'm not, and sometimes it was very difficult for me. It was extremely difficult. But I found some people, believe it or not, that made me feel comfortable in that environment. You know, you started to choose your friends, you make your friends, you seclude yourself. And as I grew up, going into 9th grade, 10th grade, I had a better understanding of my identity, and that was the most important thing.
And you brought up a really good point about your identity, because it's very critical for a teenager, and even, I guess, more so for you coming from a different country, coming in here, and that culture shock that you experience, to maintain your identity. Because even, you know, kids right now, teenagers in this society have a problem maintaining their identity, who they are. They speak English, they were born and raised here, but they still have a problem maintaining their identity. What advice would you give to students like that, teenagers?
Well, before I give you the advice, this is really the mainly reason what drives me to enjoy my job where I work at now, because I work, of course, at Al-Azhar school as a school, and what made me love what I do is because this is a place, because as middle school is where you develop your identity. And I believe that there's an ayah in the Quran that when I was given the khutbah last week to the kids, it says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the shaitan, and he says, وَيُمَنِّيهِمْ, right? I'm not sure exactly the Arabic that the shaitan gives them hopes and false desire, and nothing that he gives them is but for false desire. And the reason I'm saying this, because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he gives us Islam, that itself gives us our identity. And I believe it's full of culture, rich of morals, and all of these things that when you are younger, a teenager, you give all that away to be able to fit in with the others. When the others, if they understand what you have, they will give up everything to
be
have
like
what you have.
Yes, that's the other way around.
I think when you grow up, you started realizing that, because the character of a Muslim, it is something that is priceless, I believe. Because it's not only the problem is that the teenagers have, that they believe Islam is just you pray 5 times a day, you fast.
Right, just the rituals. That's what they're thinking. Yeah, do the 5 pillars and that's it. Right.
But Islam actually make you understand who you truly are and what your purpose is. And if you know who you truly are and what your purpose is and the reason for your existence, then your identity developed right there. And if you understand it, have a better understanding of your identity, you're not only understanding your identity, I believe, you understand a human being's identity. So you become an example for others, whether are Muslims or non-Muslim, you make them help understand their identity. And that's how, with that, you call people into Islam.
And that's a powerful message in such a critical age of your life. That I think those experiences that you encountered then as a teenager has helped you to grow and develop into the person that you are right now, today.
Right, it's true. I mean, it took me a while. That's the reason also what I'm doing, because as I grew up and I go into high school and I got out of school and all that stuff, I went astray, of course. But because I was confused, not understanding, because also the big part of it is, alhamdulillah, I'm blessed that I learned in Saudi Arabia. But when you learn in Saudi Arabia, you are living in a closed area. You're not understanding who are non-Muslims,
Right,
who
you don't
are the
experience the
Christians.
world outside.
Right, you don't have an understanding.
in
Yes, you are
isolation.
being taught,
Right.
but you are not. You are being taught and you are being told how it is out there. But you cannot be told how it is out there. You have to experience it. Because, for example, that's what, I'm sure that's not the intention of anyone, but that's what exactly brainwashing is. When you tell a person how it is out there, but when they go themselves and they realize it's something else. And I think this is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because when you learn the Quran does not only talks about the desert. The Quran does not talk about only Muslims. It talks about Arabs. It talks about what is out there. And when I lived in Saudi Arabia, I learned what the Quran is, and the place. I mean, even the place I lived in Saudi Arabia, it's called Hayy al-Khandaq. This is where the Battle of the Trench happened. So I probably walked where the footsteps of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the companions were. So I had a good experience there.
Of the Islamic history. Right.
And what Islam is about. But I took that knowledge when I came here. Now I have a better understanding what the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala it is. And it took a while for transition. I had to experience certain things, try certain things, and alhamdulillah, with the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He brought me back to the right path.
MashaAllah. So that experience must have really done well for your personality and your identity, and living in that isolation and coming here and experience Islam as it is in its broad open horizon, you know.
Right.
It's really like you're moving from theory in Medina to
Right.
what is reality here
Right.
in the United States.
Because I believe what makes a true Muslim, it's not a person that was brought up as a Muslim. What makes a true Muslim and a true believer is a person that understands Islam and makes the choice to follow Islam. Because this is the misconception of most of the people. Yeah, there is billions of Muslims in the world, right?
But how many of them actually live Islam, right?
Actually choose, this is the choice, I want to live my life. Because you might take your kids to Sunday school and do this and that, but in your business dealings and stuff that you do in your daily lives are completely un-Islamic, has nothing to do with Islam. Yeah, you live in the Islamic culture, but Islam is a choice you have to take. And I think when you come to this country, when I came to this country, it helped me as an adult to pick Islam as my choice of a way of life.
So it did not become that you were brought up in it.
Exactly.
It really had that meaning that you really understood why you are Muslim, and you actually chose when you came here that you were going to follow this path and you're going to maintain your identity and be wise in choosing your friends, because you mentioned, you know, that that's very important, especially as a teenager, who you choose as your friends, because it can either take you on the right path or they can lead you astray.
That's true. Actually, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala touched on that subject. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Al-maru ala dini khalili." The person is on the religion or the way of life of his companion. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned an ayah in the Quran when He speaks about the people of paradise. And He speaks that they were sitting and they're reclining on their thrones and they were speaking. And one of them will say, I remember so-and-so used to be my friend. And a caller will call, it says, do you want to see where he is? And the Quran continues, says, so he looks where he is and he see him in the midst of the hellfire. And he was in shock and he says, I swear by Allah, you almost had led me astray the way you are. So the friends, it's the biggest thing that a person could influence them in their life. So truly, yes, it's so if you say it's okay, that's what my friends do, or that's what my friends do, but if your friend prays and goes to the masjid, he's going to tell you, let's go to the masjid before we go over here. If your friend is fasting, you're going to feel like left out. How come he's fasting, I'm not fasting? So all these things it really matters in your life.
And that's really a powerful message, and I'm glad, you know, you're able to say that here, so that not only that our youth can listen to it, but this is a message for everyone, even adults. Choose your friends wisely. Now, how were you motivated to get involved in Islamic activities? Were you involved in Islamic work in Medina as a teenager, or you became involved when you migrated here to South Florida?
Well, when I was in Saudi Arabia in Medina, they used to have summer camp, and my brother was involved in it, and I was younger, I got involved in it. It's called Al-Ilmi, which is you get involved in the whole summer. You're in this camp, and you were doing nasheeds, and you're involved in Quran.
Right, you live Islam 24/7.
Right, but this is more was like a you know, something to occupy your time. When I came to this country, actually, my involvement in Islam is, to tell you the truth, it didn't come by choice. Because my father is a big in the community, and he's a sheikh, And so we are just put in the spotlight.
Expected to follow along those lines,
follow.
right?
I mean, any masjid, for example, I go to, this is by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you're asked to do something or pushed forward to lead the salah.
Right.
So this is by itself put me in the spotlight to get involved more into Islam. And I really truly believe that everything in life happened for a reason. You may plan whatever you want for yourself, because I did printing for a while as a business, and I went more further and I opened a store, a cell phone store. It didn't work out for me, but I was out of a job for like 2-3 months, and I was just out of the blue. There's a call from Al-Azhar school came, somebody was leaving, and they tell me, do you want to take my place? Sure. I got an interview and I got planted there. And subhanAllah, every day I do feel like I'm making a difference. On top of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling me, you had something planned for yourself, but I planned something better for you.
And Allah is the best of planners.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put me there.
So you feel now that you've reached your niche, this is where your comfort zone is, this is where you belong. You feel like this is where you belong after all the things you've tried.
Right, because as I was telling my principal, Miss Hiba Hussein, and before I mentioned that, there is a quote, subhanAllah, on Friday when I was doing that, passing the attendance, and I saw it and I put it in the attendance. It says, find something you love and you never have to work a day in your life. And it's not, yes, it is stressful, it's a lot of work, it's involvement, and of course there's a lot of things you have to volunteer, your time, your effort, and maybe sometimes you take away time from your family. But if this is something, of course, this life you live for how long? 60, 70 years, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you whatever you want in the hereafter. And I believe that because because of the environment, it's not only I'm benefiting others, as I was telling the principal, it's keeping me in check. I am around Muslims all day, I'm around Islamics all day, I am watched by little kids, how do I act, how do I...
You're a role model.
The role model.
Exactly.
So that itself keeps me in the right path. And so what else do you want? You are doing something for the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the same time, something is keeping you away from the bad out there in the world. Because if you have a business, for example, and you have, or you're working somewhere, sometimes you have to do something unlawful, you know, in Islam, for example, to make an extra dollar. Or you have to tell a person this and you have to tell a person that. Why? Because sometimes business is down and that.
Yes.
And because you have to pay your bills at the end of the day, you have to make a little dollar. So sometimes you find yourself doing something you don't want to do. And alhamdulillah, for the environment that I'm in, you don't put yourself in these situations.
You're not in that situation. So you're doing something that you actually love.
Right.
So although it's work, yes, it's an employment, but it is something that you really love.
Right.
MashaAllah. Now, talking to you earlier, before we started the interview, you mentioned that you entered many Quranic competitions. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the recent Quran competition I entered was in Ramadan. It was Surah Maryam. And I seen the posters, you know, going up, and the only reason I joined because Surah Maryam became one of my favorite surahs. As I listen to it all the time, have a better understanding of it. And then I said, you know what, let me join the competition, and alhamdulillah I joined and I won second place.
MashaAllah.
And I think also in reciting the Quran, what makes the Quran, because I watched some of the shows on Al-Hikmat TV live, and I remember one of the brothers you were interviewing, and you said, what makes a person better in recitation? Of course, he was saying practice. And I do believe in that, practice. But one of the most important, essential is understanding what you're reading. Because if you understand what you're reading, for example, I'll give you an example. If you are angry at somebody, right? And the words that you emphasize, it come up with a meaning, because the way you say it, the way you are giving it to the other person, right? Because it's coming up with emotion. The same way with the Quran. When you connect with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, you are speaking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's voice to others to follow. And when you insert that in the Quran, whether you're reading Taraweeh or you're doing something, then the flavor of the Quran becomes, that means 20 rak'at feels like 2 rak'at. And this is what really drove me to enter in the competition, because I feel this is something that I could give, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me with the language of the Quran.
MashaAllah, because that is so interesting that you mentioned that, because a lot of people just memorize and they recite, but they actually have no idea what it is that they're saying.
Right.
And you're talking about that deep meaning that I think we all need to get into and really understand, whether we are Qari or not, you know, to really understand, even for the salah that we perform 5 times a day, to understand what it is we're saying in the Arabic language. And that is so, you know, I mean, you can't emphasize enough how important it gives so much meaning into your salah in itself, that you understand what it is you're saying and not just doing robotically or reciting the Arabic and going to the surahs. So that's very good, mashallah. Well, at this point, we're going to be taking a short break and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Toyota of Hollywood. No matter what your new car needs are, it's our goal to make every step of your ownership experience as easy as possible. Let our professional trained sales staff help you find the right car at the right price. Discover an easy ownership experience at Toyota of Hollywood today. We're conveniently located at 1841 North 60th Avenue in Hollywood, Florida.
Will you like to have your events broadcasted live? Contact Al-Hikmat Productions, a full-service video production for Islamic functions, weddings, seminars, etc. For more details, contact Al-Hikmat office 1-800-804-0267. That's 1-800-804-0267. Eat healthy, eat halal at Ashraf's Halal Meat Center for all your East and West Indian grocery for genuine halal USDA meat. Stop in or call in your orders at 305-654-0195. That's 305-654-0195.
Are you tired of calling cards? Are you fed up of those long PIN numbers? Then use Sensible, international direct calling for cents only. For more details, contact the Al-Hikmat office at 954-986-0158. That's 954-986-0158.
Estene Caribbean Market, East and West Indian grocery for all your halal meats, fish, and vegetables. Call to place your order at 954-961-6160. That's 954-961-6160.
Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to Al-Hikmat TV, Who's Who in America and the Community. If you're now joining us, my guest today is Brother Nabil El-Shukri, who is the administrator at the Al-Azhar Islamic School. Brother Nabil is giving us a little bit of insight about who he is and his background. Now we're going to get into your professional status. You are the administrator at Al-Azhar, and tell us a little bit about your work there, because I know you're involved in technology quite a bit.
Right. Well, I work at Al-Azhar School. I work in the front office. My position have put me in a good spot because my position makes me deal with teachers, parents, and students as well.
You deal with the whole community.
With the whole community, of course. And this is a critical position for the school. Also, in my position, I deal with the accounts, the financial aids, I deal with the technology equipment, and I act as the acting imam there, since there is not a masjid, so there is not an actual imam. I'm the one who takes up that role, which is for the Friday Khutbah and the Dhuhr Salah.
So you're quite a role model for not only the students at that school, because I think they go from preschool all the way to middle school.
Right.
And the middle school we talked about earlier being very critical level. So I know you can identify with those students that are at the school. So they see you as a role model, a positive role model that they can look up to and sort of emulate.
Right, right. Well, you see, that's the critical thing, because when they see somebody that speaks like them, that is you know, not like as a father figure, but somebody as their age,
closer
but
to
at
their
the
age,
same time, when he speaks from experience, from things that he went through, and it's not that much of an age difference, then it is truly a role model that they could benefit
So they
from.
can easily identify with you faster than I guess somebody else, from the, you know, the other
like
teachers
if somebody's
that they
older,
have.
they'll be like, it's easy for you to say, right?
Because you haven't lived it, you're so far away, you don't
Right,
experience it.
right.
So tell us a little bit about what you actually do in terms of technology, because I think we had your principal, Sister Hiba, here on the program, and she said that they have a fantastic technology program there. They have interactive classrooms. Give us a little bit of insight into that.
Well, at Al-Azhar School, we try, before I start, I believe because we are, as Muslims, we should have the best there is out there. because we are blessed with the Quran, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to prepare the best that there is, because we are the role models for the whole world.
Right, we shouldn't settle for less.
Of course.
Good.
And I think as administration as a whole, not only me and as a school, from the principal down to the teachers, we try to implement that the best as we can in the school. So the stage that we are in today is the technology. We have added many computers and laptops to the library, and also we have the website. The website itself, it's in different segments in the website. There is the website for the general public that will be able to learn from the school, see picture galleries, see stuff about the scholarships. They see, even there is a tab that we added that has different things from the outside Muslim community that you can learn: Arabic, Quran, all of this stuff added in the website. You don't even
and
have
is
to
it
be part of
consumer
the
friendly? Because I need to just
It's
ask
very,
you that,
very
because I have a phobia about computers and technology.
It is very friendly.
Okay,
it's very
good.
friendly. And also some the stuff, you just put the mouse on it and it drops and it tells you what's there. That's the part for the community. Now for the part for the parents and the students, there's something called, in the same website, that's what it is, you are able to log in. Now when you log in into the website, there is certain contents that is blocked off from the general public that would automatically appear for you, which is your children's grades, their classrooms, their everything that you could think of, posting of homework, assignments, all of these things will appear in different classrooms. And the reason this is good, because you are able to communicate and see the character of each teacher, because you go to each classroom, they have their own website by themselves. So if you go to science, you're going to see the science, the teacher, the posting that she put. You'll be able to contact her through email in the bottom. You'll be able to see the grades. You'll be able to see the assignments, the upcoming calendar schedule. So every sector of this website, it goes to a different person. I want to go to this person. Also has a different sector. Now you go to the library. And when you go to the library, there is online reading programs. There is something called, we have purchased recently, called Accelerated Reader, which is to motivate children to compete into how many words they read. We have just one student, mashallah, have finished 1 million words, and recently, in just a few months. So all these tools we are adding, and not on top of that, it's not that you have to be in the school to use it. You could do it from the comfort from your home. And also another segment that we have on the website, it's called the grade book, quick grade book, which is the teachers are able to enter all their grades. We don't use books anymore. That's things of the past, and calculate and calculate.
Everything is electronic.
Right. So you
save the trees now, right?
enter everything online, and you'll be able to post, and it goes all directly to the website, and it goes directly to the office to generate the report cards. Will be able to do that. So everything is interacted together. The teacher will be able to do it from the comfort of their home, communicate with the school computer. So all these things are stuff we work on, and every year we're trying to better for something the best.
So you upgrade each year.
You're upgrading every
and that's
year.
great. So you're not staying stagnant. It's okay,
Right.
we do this, we're up on our technology, but you're always looking for ways and means
Right.
where you can improve and get better at what you're
Actually,
doing.
also, we're also doing, I'm getting feedback from teachers and the other administrators that work with me. And if there is something that these websites features could add, we also make suggestions also maybe for the other schools to be able to utilize. So it's not something that because the way we look at it, all these things, technology things, because sometimes people look at things like, wow, look at this, and they feel like it's a non-human made it, right? At the end of the day, it's a human like me and you made it.
Exactly.
So we could better it too for them, and they could better us. So these are things that this is the role model we're taking towards these things.
So you're open to ideas and suggestions, and that's great. And this must take a lot of planning on your part. How do you help, develop or teach the teachers to be able to use this, train the teachers and the other administrators to be able to be comfortable using technology at this level?
Well, the technology, first, my background, I didn't study anything in technology, but the reason it became, subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes just puts something in you that
Put the
if
knowledge
you're in love
in you,
with you.
mashallah.
No, it's something that I love to do, because I used to do printing and design work and stuff that requires technology, where they're using, Photoshop, websites and stuff like that. And just that itself, it teaches me how to teach myself. And I take the easy role, how did I understand it, and take that and give it to others to understand. And I think that's what makes it, because anybody could take a menu or how to operate something and explain it, but it seems Chinese to them.
Exactly.
Okay, this is how you operate, but this is how I do it. And this is, I think, an easier way
so
for
you
them
make
to
it
learn.
so much more friendly
Right.
for the
Right.
user-friendly
Right.
for the person. So I need a lesson in that, because that's what it sounds like to me. You know, that's great, mashallah, that you're able to do that and be comfortable, you know, making, I guess, Al-Azhar so unique from the other Islamic schools, that they have this level of technology
Right.
and this amount of technology that they use in the classroom, that not only the students are exposed to, but the teachers as well.
Well, I would like to add to that, this is not possible at all if we didn't have dedicated staff and teachers, because Adline and the website, it means nothing if they're not everybody's involved on the other end. And I think that takes a lot of time and courage from the other teachers and everybody at Al-Azhar school to learn how to utilize these tools, because at the end of the day, all of us could be lazy and said, you know what, yeah, it's nice
It's
to know,
too
but
hard,
I don't
yeah,
have, it's too hard,
yeah.
I don't want to do it. But every single teacher puts the time and effort to update and keep everything maintained. That's what makes the website great, because the website itself is just a bunch of HTML
Yes.
codes online, and it means nothing if there's no human beings interacting with it on the other ends.
So you have such a dedicated and committed staff
Right.
at Al-Azhar that you're able to excel in this area of technology, subhanAllah. And I think you should be, maybe Al-Azhar should be the role model for the other Islamic schools. Have you thought about taking this to the other Islamic schools and maybe trying to train their teachers and administrators in getting this set up in their schools?
Well, I think all of us as Muslims, there is no, I believe we want all the other schools to succeed. I mean, we're all
course.
teaching Islam, we're all here for the sake
Right.
of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is no harm in each one looking at what the other person is doing and trying to learn from them. And I think we do communicate in that level. And we're of course, we're well open to do any kind of training. Sometimes our teachers go to a different school to learn how they do their curriculum, or how they teach certain ways. Do your students read better Quran? Let's see what tools you're using. I think this is nothing about competing. My school is better than yours. And I think this is the break point. We take the pride out and see what well are we doing, and we take that and teach me. And
Yes.
teach me. If this is working out for you and this is good, it looks great, I admit it, just teach me.
Show me what
And let
to
me
do.
show you what I have great and teach you. That's where all, because at the end of the day, we are here for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're doing anything for any other sake, then your reward becomes for that. If you're doing something for other people to say it's great job, when they say it's great job, that's your reward. But if you're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the reward with Allah subhanahu
So
wa ta'ala.
actions are definitely
Yeah.
judged by intentions.
Right.
And it's good to know, to hear you say actually that you're all about sharing your
Right.
information and not competing.
Right.
Because we get so caught up sometimes in the politics of the education and the politics of the
Right.
community that we end up competing and trying to outdo each other,
Right.
that we lose focus of what we're really here for.
True.
And in your capacity as an educator, you
Right.
know, you're responsible for our young leaders.
Right.
And it's such a vital and important function you have at that Islamic school. In fact, all Islamic schools. Sometimes, you know, we really need to get together and share rather than compete for who's better than who. Because we're all here, like you say, for the same reason. We're here to please Allah.
Actually, since you mentioned that, I wanted to say one point. And what makes me, motivate me to work at the environment that I work in at Al-Azhar school, that you know what, Islamic studies and teaching Islam and Quran, anyone can teach that. You don't even have to be a Muslim to teach Quran or Islam. You could be an atheist, and they have it in universities. Anybody could teach Islam. So it's not about teaching Islam really. It's about the environment that you are in. Is what you teaching to the kids. It's what they seeing from you, because that's what makes the difference, I believe. And I think this is what makes my environment is something that I be able to cope with every day, and I feel like I'm making a difference. Because sincerity, it is something detected the most by children. You cannot
can't fool a
hide
child.
sincerity.
That's
You
right.
cannot
Oh,
fool
so
a child.
true.
You
True.
cannot tell a child, for example, where is your hijab and your hair is showing. I mean, they'll be able to detect
They
it,
see
and they will speak it out right away.
That's right. They
and
know
this is
how
what's
bad.
so beautiful about children. I mean, they are it's like an open book. And I think with teaching, yes, you could teach Islam, but you cannot teach Iman. Iman is something that is felt by others. And I believe the environment you're in, you feel that as an adult. And if you do feel that as an adult, it's very important that the children feel it also.
So it's not only about teaching Islam per se, but it's more about living Islam. And
Yes.
that's what you do at the school. You live Islam
Right.
for these young children, these young
Actually,
students
this is
to
our
emulate.
mission, teaching our children to live, love, and
to
learn
live,
through
love, and
Islamic
learn.
values.
MashaAllah,
Yeah.
powerful words.
Right.
That's fantastic. So as we come to the end of our program, is there any last minute advice that you'd like to give to our youngsters out there, or even to the community members who would like to get involved and assist Al-Azhar?
Well, the thing that I want to tell to the outside world is that before I worked at any Islamic school, I had no idea what Islamic school is, or how can a child get into an Islamic school. Is it beneficial for my child, or is it better to be in the outside world? I mean, sometimes you hear people like you're just closing your child in a bubble, not understanding the outside world. But this is not the case.
There's a great debate with Islamic school versus, you know, the public school system.
Because I'll tell the people outside this. Your children live in the United States of America. They exposed to the television, they're exposed into their neighbors. They have enough reality in their life. They have enough reality to the place they live in their life. They don't need to go to public school to understand the reality. But you need to plant Islam in their heart and understanding to be able to read, and that is just taking them to an Islamic school between the hours of 8 and 3 o'clock. And that at least you did your part when you were questioned in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You said, I tried my best. I used some of my wealth to educate my children. I found, if I can't afford it, I found a way to be able to put them in. At least you'll be able to answer in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we all made the decision to come to this country to give a better life to our children.
That's right.
But this better life means a better house and a better car, because there is nothing better than Islamic education. Because this is what you're going to be questioned in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's okay to migrate to a non-Muslim world, but you have to make sure that your child is being taken care of in the spiritual aspect of it. And this is what you're going to be questioned of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you tell them you take them to a Sunday school for a couple of hours, this is not a sufficient enough. It's not a sufficient answer in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And unfortunately, that seems to be the
that
solution.
That is the majority. That's the 90% of the Muslims.
They seem to be that there's a shortcut solution to solving some of the problems.
And sometimes, unfortunately, I feel really just to clear their conscience, and this is something that we do as Muslims. To clear our conscience, we put a little Islam in the Sunday school. You know, that's it. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing. And
you say, okay, yes, I'm doing my job, and that's it. So you know, get off my back, kind of thing. I'm doing my part as a parent. I take them to school once a week. You know, Islamic school once a week, but it's not enough. We're Muslim 24/7, and we need to, like you say, live Islam, not just teach it, but we really need to live it so that our children can emulate and see us as adults.
Because at the end of the day, we sometimes, and inshallah we'll conclude with this, that sometimes we complain about our condition in our community or Muslims in America, and of course we point fingers to the non-Muslims or this, and Islam is going to attack other people. But the reason the condition that we are in is because of us. The condition, the environment that you make is because of you. You can't blame anybody else. And I think the more you better your children, the more the better for Islam and their future will be. Because Islam is the answer. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Islam ya'lu wa la yu'la alayh. Islam is the highest, and nothing will supersede it. And so no matter what you're trying to teach them about life, business, how to make money, educate them, if you don't teach them about Islam, they will never understand and have the best knowledge that they need to understand. So Islam is the target you need to target. If you teach them Islam, and you teach him to be a businessman, he'll be the best businessman there is.
MashaAllah. And what a wonderful way to end our program. It was a pleasure having you as our guest. You gave us a lot of food for thought and a lot of powerful messages here that I know that our viewers will be able to benefit quite a lot. Not only the students and our youngsters, but also the adults as well. Thank you so much for being my guest today on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And that brings us to the end of our program for today. My guest was Brother Nabil El-Shukri, the administrator of the Azhar School in, where is this located? Tamarack. Yes, sorry about that, in Tamarack. So he was our guest today, and this brings us to the end of our program. Please join us again next week for another edition of Who's Who in America and the Community. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Hamdan lillah, Hamdan lillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wa la ilaha illallah, Wallahu akbar, Wallahu akbar. Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Hamdan lillah, Hamdan lillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wa la ilaha illallah, Wallahu akbar.